Francesca, welcome back to our channel. Today we've put together a list of our romantic comedy recommendations for you guys. It was a video that was requested here on YouTube in the comments, and we hope that we've included some new and some a little bit older books that we really enjoy in the rom-com genre. Now we are sticking to contemporary romances for this, but obviously there are also rom-coms in historical romance and paranormal romance, anything like that. So if you're interested to get some recommendations in those subgenres for romantic comedies, let us know and we'll try to put another video together. Although we do have some posts on the blog that you can check out for books that we recommend in those subgenres as well. So I'm going to get this started, and the first book that I'm going to talk to you guys about is Good Boy by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. So this is a really funny sports romance, has an adorable hero, and it's the first in the Wags series. This is actually a spin-off from the Us and Him books, which are male-male romance that they wrote together, but these are actually male-female books. There's 2 books in this series right now. This is definitely the one that's the funniest. The hero is really adorable. It's definitely a laugh out loud kind of book. So Serena Bowen is one of those authors that I really enjoy her contemporary romances that have some humor in them. And I'm going to give you another recommendation that she's also collaborated with another author to write, and it's the Man Hands series. So the first book is Man Hands, the second is Man Card, and the third book is Boy Toy, which is coming out in August, and I've already read it and it's really cute and adorable, and it's probably my favorite in the series so far. So the next recommendation that I have for you guys is also another author duo, and it's Penelope Ward and Vi Keeland. They've written several standalone novels. They are really loosely interconnected, as in probably the characters from this book, Cocky Bastard, show up in passing in other stories, so you definitely don't need to read them in any kind of order. They're completely standalone books. However, I do find them really enjoyable. There's enough humor and there's plenty of sexy banter in all of these books. I think that they write really well together, and I've really enjoyed their collaborations. Cocky Bastard has an Australian hero, there's a cross-country road trip, and a fainting goat named Pixie. And because it seems like I like certain authors and the humor, the way they write, I'm also recommending Vi Keeland's standalones, and in particular Egomaniac by Vi Keeland. This is a twist on an office romance. They do work in the same space, although they don't work for each other. It's an opposites attract. There's also a little bit of emotion in this one, and the hero is to die for book boyfriend material. So the next author in general that I want to tell you guys that should be on your romantic comedy list is Megan Quinn. I definitely have one top favorite that I want to mention. So a few of the books that I'm going to recommend first are not necessarily called a series. I don't think she calls them a series, but they are standalones and they're interconnected. One of those is My Best Friend's Ex and Twisted Twosome. I think the other one is Co-Wrecker. I think these are the perfect lighthearted kind of rom-coms. So if you're looking for something like that, definitely check these out. The humor is not over the top in these two. Very much so like a romantic comedy in My Best Friend's Ex. It's exactly what it sounds like. This girl ends up being roommates with her best friend's ex-boyfriend. And in Twisted Twosome, he is working on remodeling the heroine's store. But like I said before, I do have my favorite rom-com by Megan Quinn, and that will always be, I think, The Virgin Romance Novelist. This is a little bit over the top, but it's so hysterical and so funny, and the romance between the main characters is perfect. I loved the heroine in this one, and it's probably one of my favorite rom-coms ever, period. So if you want something that's definitely laugh out loud funny, not just cutesy kind of rom-com, definitely pick this one up. We also have to talk about the book that started my fascination with Emma Chase, and Emma Chase is another one of those authors that I think writes really good rom-coms. That first book that started that love affair is Tangled, and this is actually written from the point of view of the hero entirely, which I thought was really unique back when this came out. And it's so hysterical because he's kind of, I don't want to say he's a jerk, but he's a little bit of a jerk, but it's just so much fun to read this one. And I definitely think that if you haven't read this, even if you've read some of Emma Chase's new stuff, definitely put this one on your TBR. And because I seem to be talking about authors in twos, I have another Emma Chase recommendation for you guys, and it's my favorite book in the Legal Brief series, and it's Sustained by Emma Chase. This is probably one of my favorite heroes that Emma Chase has ever written, and this book is just so much fun. So the heroine in this one ends up getting custody of her sister's kids. I think it was her sister, when her sister and her husband died in an accident. I think there's 4 or 5 kids, different ages. There's one of them is still a baby. So she's really young. She ends up getting custody of all these kids. She basically has no idea how to raise them. So it's hysterical to see them manage and navigate through being sort of the responsible adult in the house and having the responsibility of all those kids, plus the hero who actually has a run-in with one of those kids who's a lawyer, very professional and put together. And it was just hysterical to see them with those kids. And this is definitely one of my favorite books by Emma Chase. And last, I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite book boyfriends. I think he was actually my favorite the year this book came out. And that book is Nuts by Alice Clayton. So Alice Clayton is always a recommendation for rom-coms. She's probably one of my favorite rom-com authors. And I particularly like this Hudson Valley series, probably more than the Woolbanger series, just because I really liked Woolbanger, the first book in that series, but then I didn't continue on liking the rest of them as much. However, with the Hudson Valley series, I enjoyed every single book in this series. I still think probably this is my favorite because I really like Farmer Leo. I don't think that I read enough farmer heroes, and he is definitely one you won't want to miss. Plus, he has the cutest nickname for the heroine, and the scene where that nickname comes from is just adorable. Plus, this book is also unexpectedly quite sexy.
Hey everyone, this is Angela with your 4 rom-com recommendations, and today I have 4 books I'd like to recommend. The first book is Alice Clayton's Woolbanger. This is the first installment of her cocktail series. Definitely must try. It's about a girl who had a neighbor who had a habit of banging on their shared wall every time he took a girl home. And the whole story was about the character or the heroine's experience having to listen to the event every time, and she's having to lose sleep. And so she had to confront him, and it took off from then on. Definitely a must try. The things that went through this girl's head, it was super funny. The second book is called Truth or Beard by Penny Reid. This is her first book of her Winston Brothers series. This is actually a spin-off off of her Knitting in the City series, which you don't have to read before you get to this one. I'm actually recommending not just this book, but the whole series. It's a story about 6 brothers who had recently lost a loved one and having to go through their loss and eventually finding a happy ever after. Each book has its own type of humor, but what I liked about it, or what made me laugh every time I read their books, is the interaction between the brothers, their banter, and how their relationship was just super funny, and I just couldn't get enough of them. The third and fourth book, I'm kind of bunching it together. The storyline is different, but the trope of enemies to lover is very similar. The third book is Jennifer Probst's The Start of Something Good. This one actually recently just came out, maybe like a month. It's about City Slicker meets Small Town. This is a little bit lighter than Penny Reid or Alice Clayton, but it's super funny and it's a light read, perfect for summer. The last book I'd like to recommend, this one actually doesn't come out till next week, I believe, is Kate Meador's Down with Love. This is again a first book of a series from her Love Wars, I think that's what it's called. It's definitely a new series. This is about a cynic who is a lawyer, not just any lawyer, he's actually a divorce lawyer. And he meets a wedding planner who is just in love with love. And so the difference between the two and the banter and trying to get along was definitely a treat. Kate Meador and Jennifer Probst is like my go-to light summer contemporary reads. You can always find humor in their novels. They're always sexy. They always have lovable characters. If you happen to pick up these books, please let us know what you think. If you've already read it, again, come back and let us know. We'd like to hear from you. And hopefully you like my recommendations.
Hey guys, it's Annie. So for my top recommendations for romantic comedies, there were quite a few that I wanted to talk about, but I have narrowed it down to my top favorites. These are definitely authors that I turn to for the stories that are a little bit more humorous and are all quite light in style. So let's get started with my picks. The first book that I want to talk about is a book by Marie Hart. Marie Hart is one of my favorite authors. I particularly like her contemporary romances because they are so humorous and they are so light and fun. The book that I want to talk about is the first book in the Macaulay Brothers series, and it's called The Troublemaker Next Door. As you can guess with the title, it's going to be quite a fun read. This entire series is quite sexy, and it's also very, very, very funny. I think it's probably the series that made me fall in love with Marie Hart in the first place. So I would highly check it out. There's 4 books in the series. All the books are out. So it is a completed series. If you are anything like me, then you'll probably fall in love with these guys. They do have quite a lot of family drama, but I think that's what makes it super fun. I really like the banter between the hero and the heroine, but also with the family aspect as well. I think that's what really made me fall in love with this series, and I think you'll enjoy it too if you try it out. So when it comes to romantic comedies, I think there is one author that the majority of people would probably think about, and for me that is Julie James. Her U.S. Attorney FBI series has been a series for me that really jump-started my love for her and her writing. The book that I want to talk about is Something About You. This is the first book in the series, and it's a series that is quite funny. You'll have a lot of back and forth between the hero and the heroine. You'll find that in this series that all the heroines are going to be quite strong. They're very strong-willed. They really know what they want. They're quite independent women, and because of that you do get quite a lot of back and forth between the heroine and the hero. So that's where the humor really plays a part. There's quite a lot of competition in this series, so I think it's a series to check out if you haven't already. I do want to mention that Julie James also writes standalones that are really good. The Sexiest Man Alive is one of my favorites, so there's quite a lot, you know, to choose from. Practice Makes Perfect. Basically all of Julie James's books are really great romantic comedy picks, so you really can't go wrong with Julie James. Another author that I think is quite classic for romantic comedy is Susan Elizabeth Phillips. My personal favorite is the Chicago Stars series. It's a series for me that really kickstarted my love for her writing, and It Had to Be You is the first book in that series. With each book in the series you're going to have some really quirky characters, so that's really where the humor stems from. I think you'll find quite a lot of characters who are going to be a little bit over the top, a little bit maybe different in personality than what you would normally see in a heroine, in a contemporary romance heroine. So that's my favorite thing about her writing, is that she writes really unique characters and puts them into quite a lot of unique situations. I should mention that some of the books are quite emotional as well. So in addition to the humor, you get quite a lot of heart too, which I think is a lethal combination, and it's guaranteed to be a good book. So if you haven't read SCP, I would highly suggest checking out the Chicago Stars series. Another author that I really enjoy reading for romantic comedy is Jill Shalvis. She is probably the author that's probably the most popular right now for romantic comedy. My favorite series from her is the Lucky Harbor series. Simply Irresistible is the first book in that one. It features 3 sisters who undergo a crisis that they need to deal with in Lucky Harbor. So it is quite a heartwarming series, but it is quite quirky and fun as well. I would say out of all the series that I have mentioned here before, this one is the most charming as opposed to laugh out loud funny. So do keep that in mind. It's a little bit of a different kind of humor. It's a little bit more sweeter in style as well. So it is going to be a little bit different when you read it. But I do think that Jill Shalvis is the queen when it comes to the more quirky characters. She definitely comes up with some really interesting heroines and heroes. So that's it, guys. Those are my top recommendations for romantic comedies. I hope you found that useful. If there are any more books that you think I should be checking out for romantic comedies, do let me know in the comment box below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!
And there you have it, guys. That's our romantic comedy recommendations in contemporary romance. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Hopefully we gave you some recommendations and books that you haven't read before. Be sure to leave in the comments below your favorite romantic comedy recommendations, and if we haven't read them, we would love to check them out. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you don't want to miss any of our videos. Follow us on the blog at underthecoversbookblog.com and all our social media channels. All the links will be in the information box down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.